Hello and welcome children. In this video we will read the poem Geography Lesson, which is written by JULFIKAR Ghose. Children, before we start the poem, let's know something about the poet JULFIKAR Ghose. Though I have given a brief description over here, but let me explain you in detail for your better understanding. JULFIKAR Ghose, he was born in Sialkot in India. Earlier it was the part of India, but now it is in Pakistan. Ghose grew up as a Muslim. His father Khwaja Muhammad Ghose was a businessman. In 1942, during the Second World War, the family moved to Bombay. Now it is called Mumbai. After the partition of British India into Pakistan and India, Ghose and his family emigrated to England. He graduated from Keele University in 1959. Going on to teach at Ealing Mid School in London, he became a close friend of Anthony Smith and of British experimental writer B.S. Johnson, with whom he collaborated on several projects. While teaching and writing in London from 1963 to 1969, Ghose also freelanced as a sports journalist, reporting on cricket for the Observer newspaper. Two collections of his poetry were published, The Loss of India and Jets from Orange, as well an autobiography called Confession of a Native Alien, and his first two novels, The Contradictions and The Murder of Aziz Khan, which was written in 1969. In 1964, Ghose married Helena de la Fontaine, an artist from Brazil. That was a country he later used as the setting for 6 of his novels. He moved from London to the United States in 1969 to teach at the University of Texas in Austin, where he has lived since. So this is all about the JULFIKAR Ghose. Now let's proceed. Children, you are reading the poem as well as your chapters from your nursery classes, but did you ever notice the chapters which you read in your class, they are known as prose, and the poems which are given in your books, they are known as poetry. They both are the part of literature, but why they are divided into two? So here, though I have given the difference, but let me explain you more clearly. See, prose. Prose refers to a form of literature having ordinary language and sentence structure. Poetry is that form of literature which is aesthetic by nature, means it has a sound, cadence. Cadence means rhythm, rhyme, meter, etc. that adds to its meaning. The language of prose is quite direct or straightforward. On the other hand, in poetry, we use an expressive or creative language which includes comparisons, rhyme, and rhythm that give it a unique cadence and feel. While the prose is pragmatic, means realistic, and poetry is figurative. Prose contains paragraphs which includes a number of sentences that has an implied message or idea, as against poetry is written in verses which are covered in stanzas. These verses leave a lot of unsaid things, and its interpretation depends upon the imagination of the reader. The prose is utilitarian, which convey a hidden moral lesson or idea. Conversely, poetry aims to delight or amuse the reader. The most important thing in prose is the message or information. In contrast, the poet shares his or her experiences or feelings with the reader, which plays a crucial role in poetry. In prose, there are no link breaks, whereas when it comes to poetry, there are number of line breaks, which is just to follow the beat or to stress on an idea. When it comes to paraphrasing or summarizing, both prose and poetry can be paraphrased, but the paraphrase of the poem is not the poem, because the essence of the poem lies in the style of writing, that is, the way in which the poet has expressed his or her experiences in verses or stanzas. So, this writing pattern and cadence is the beauty of poetry, which cannot be summarized. So, how to remember the difference? The best trick to remember the difference between these two is to understand your writing style. That is, while prose is written ordinarily, poetry has aesthetic features, and so it has distinctive writing pattern. Further, the prose is a form of language which expressively conveys a message or meaning by way of a narrative structure. On the contrary, poetry is such a form of literature with a unique writing format, that is, it has a pattern, rhyme and rhythm. In addition to this, prose appears like big blocks of words, whereas the size of poetry may vary as per the line length and the poet's intention. Children, while writing a poem, we use different tools like different devices, different figure of speeches and rhyming scheme. The rhyming pattern that is created at the end of the lines of the poetry, that is known as rhyming scheme. Already I had taught you in the poem The Ant and the Cricket, but let me make it more clear by these lines of the poem. Mary had a little lamb. So let's give this line name A. Its fleece as white as snow. As there is no rhyming sound between lamb and snow, so we will give it name B. And everywhere that Mary went, again there is no coordination among these three lines, lamb, snow and went, so it is named as C. Now the lamb was sure to go. Now go sounds with snow, it matches with snow, so there is coordination between snow and go, so go can be named B again. So here the rhyming pattern will be A, B, C, B. This is known as rhyming scheme. In this way you can identify the rhyming scheme of the poem. But it is not compulsory that every poem has a rhyming scheme. So if the poem does not have a rhyming scheme, it is considered to be a free verse poem. Children, as I had told you that devices or the poetic devices are used while writing a poem. So poetry can follow a strict structure or none at all, but many different types of poems use poetic devices. Poetic devices are tools that a poet can use to create rhythm, enhance a poem's meaning, or intensify a mood or feeling. These devices help piece the poem together. Much like a hammer and nails join planks of wood together. Some of these devices are used in literature as well, but for the sake of clarity, we will look at all of these devices through the lens of poetry.